Hey everybody, this is going to be Beetle casting for the StarCraft 2 Rebirth Tournament Series, and this is the orange Protoss Pitrof versus the blue Protoss Thanatos. And this is the second game of the third week semifinals between these two players. Previously, Thanatos won on Metalopolis, so Pitrof declared Xel'Naga Caverns as the next map. And if you watched the last game, I think it was a pretty good game. Both of these players went for pretty, I don't want to say standard builds, but their builds were similar enough that I feel there wasn't a lot of distinction between the two. Obviously there are minor distinctions between any two different builds, but for the most part they went for pretty similar things. I think it's going to be interesting to see what they go for this game in terms of like 3-gate, 4-gate, 3-gate, robo, that kind of thing. I think a fast expand action would be pretty interesting at this point. It's not the most defensible map for it, but I don't think either of these players are expecting the other to expand quickly, so that may work in one of their favors if they choose to expand, but of course that's all just hypothesizing on my part. And by the way, I am a new caster, and I don't know that much about Protoss versus Protoss, so if I get any names wrong, like calling a Stalker or Sentry or vice versa, just feel free to yell at me in the comments below. I realize that I'm not great at this yet, but hey, that's why everyone has to learn at some point. And we see Thanatos getting down a gateway while Pitrof gets down the gateway. I'm actually going to pull up the production tab and the supply tab so we can keep an eye on their supply and what they're building. Hey everybody, this is going to be Beetle casting for the StarCraft 2 Rebirth Tournament Series, and this is the second game between Pitrof and Thanatos, our orange and blue Protoss here. This is the semifinals. Sorry, let me set my status to busy real quick. There you go. This is the semifinals of the third week of the Gold Tournament Series, so both of these players had to get here from, I believe it was a round of 32 that week, pretty good turnout. Regardless, the first map was played on Metalopolis. This map is Xel'Naga Caverns, and Thanatos took the first map, meaning Pitrof got to pick Xel'Naga Caverns as the second map for the matchup. And last game was pretty interesting. I think it really came down to macro in my opinion. Just because both players went for, if not similar builds, or if not exact, okay, if not same build styles, they went for similar build styles. Both of them went for like 3-gate, 4-gate maybe, Stalker, Heavy Army, eventually teching into Immortals. So I think it'll be interesting to see what tech they go for this game. A lot of times in tournaments people try to switch up their tech partway through, or not partway through, but after the first few games they like to switch up the tech a little bit. And sometimes people just go for the same tech the entire time. But regardless, a little bit of fidgeting there with that stuff. Regardless, I think this will be an interesting matchup today, as I think Xel'Naga Caverns always is an interesting map to a degree. I think it favors people trying to go for some drops or sneaky play. I mean, of course, people go for just straight down the middle, taking the map, but it is a map that tries to get people to play a little bit sneakier, a little bit more drops for Terrans, I know, maybe proxy pylons for Protoss, that sort of thing. So I do think it'll be an interesting match today, and if you see Thanatos has just started an assimilator, Pitrof actually already has an assimilator down. Pitrof also got his gateway down a little earlier than Thanatos, but not a lot. Pitrof are also now getting a cybernetic score about 8 seconds faster than Thanatos. And you know, you think 8 seconds isn't that long of a time, but in this game, battles really can come down to about a 10-second timing window. So we have to keep an eye on that and see how they do. Both getting a Zealot out at about the same time, maybe a second late for Thanatos, but that really doesn't matter that much. Check the income tab, both of them are dead even with income, and we don't want to disable sound. Good production now, and then we can check their camera views. Pitrof does see the cybernetic score. Thanatos seeing the cybernetic score down. He actually sees a chrono boost on the cybernetic score if he was paying attention, so he knows he's chrono boosting warp gate tech out, which is important to know because if he just starts chrono boosting gateway, that can be an issue for him. But we switch back to everyone's view. Thanatos is getting a good scout off into Pitrof's base, and Pitrof is getting a Stalker and warp gate research out. He hasn't Thanatos isn't chrono boosting Warp Gate research out, but he is getting a Stalker, so both of these players will have a Zealot and a Stalker. Note that Pitrof just getting that Stalker out a little bit earlier than Thanatos, 12 seconds or so. And Thanatos actually now is getting 2 gateways down. Wow, so Thanatos is getting 2 gateways. Pitrof is getting 2 gateways, so both of these players transitioning into 3 gate at about the same time. And that comes from really playing a lot. Like, getting the build order down to where both players do the same thing at about the same time, that shows you that they've both played this build order enough to get the timing really down, at least at this level. But both getting one out, Pitrof both of them, are getting sentries out. See if there's any other weird play that might be coming. What's this pro going to do? Another gateway. So Thanatos is going for a 4 gate at this point. Pitrof still has 3 gate robo. Okay, so Pitrof is going for 3 gate robo, while Thanatos goes straight to a 4 gate. Interesting to see how this is going to work. If Pitrof goes really heavy Immortals, I think this could go in Pitrof's favor. But I don't know, his ground army production might be harmed a little bit. I think that's going to be a really close matchup at this point. I don't actually know what wins out in a straight 3 gate robo to 4 gate. As I said, I haven't played Protoss that much. You guys can yell at me about that. I am kind of a new caster, so I don't know the intricacies of all the different races, just really Terran. But Thanatos is moving out to do some early pressure with these sentries, and he does have a proxy pylon hidden behind the tall grass, or what is that, weird trees, or I don't know, whatever. That vision, I'm just going to call it tall grass, but that vision blocking tall grass, he is getting some reinforcements out to reinforce this push, and it looks like he's trying to do some damage, but I don't know if it'll be able to do that much. Pitrof does have enough sentries to force field the ramp and possibly cut this army in half as it goes up the ramp, and Pitrof just getting an Immortal out in a few seconds. One Stalker going down for Thanatos, and Thanatos not killing anything. He almost killed its Zealot, but it got away with 7 health, so when its shields recharge, it'll be a little bit of a threat. And Pitrof did get the Immortal out. We checked the tab. Thanatos has 3 more Stalkers and another Zealot over Pitrof, but Pitrof does have that Immortal, and Pitrof is getting a second Zealot out. But regardless, I think that Immortal versus a heavy Stalker army is going to be pretty powerful. I think he could focus down the Immortal, but it's a lot of health and it's a lot of damage, so I don't know how well it's going to do. And of course we're going down to the main end. Pitrof cutting Thanatos' army in half, and he is going to pick off most of this army. Thanatos is trying to run away with what army he has left, but Pitrof is coming after him. Thanatos needs to force field off his opponents and block them down. Note Stalkers are faster than all of the other gateway units that Protoss can produce at this tier. Thanatos really need to be using the force fields down on that, and one of the sentries getting picked off. Is the sentry going to... Oh, okay, another force field going down, but not enough to slow him down. And now Thanatos is in a little bit of a pickle, as Pitrof definitely has the army to push up into his main if he chooses to. And a battle coming out at Thanatos' natural. What's going to happen? Is someone going to force field? Pitrof force fielding down Thanatos, trying to cut his army in half. I think this is going to go for Pitrof. And I think a lot of it comes down to these Immortals, because these Immortals do so much versus Stalkers. They do 50 damage versus Stalkers, which is really big when a Stalker only has 160 HP. So Thanatos trying to hold on, but I don't know if this is going to work. He needs to force field the ramp. Not good for Thanatos. Thanatos is definitely in a little bit of a pickle here. If we check the income tab, both even income. Now Thanatos is going for a Robo Bay. I don't think it's game over for Thanatos quite yet, but he's definitely in a little bit of a pickle, and Thanatos is getting out more Zealots to try to counter the Immortals, and I think Zealots are probably a pretty good counter for Immortals, as they do 16 damage a hit, and because the damage is spread across versus from 2 attacks, it doesn't get reduced by the Hurt and Shield. But I don't know. I just don't know if Thanatos' army can actually deal with this. Regardless, Pitrof is backing up here, and he's backing up to the Xel'Naga tower. He's maintaining map control, but he's not being super aggressive right now. And Thanatos' Robo Bay is just about out. Pitrof got down a Nexus while he was pressuring, and that's about halfway done at this point. So Pitrof also has an observer out, so I think it's Pitrof's game at this point. He expanded faster than Thanatos did. He put pressure on Thanatos quicker. He has, I think, probably the better army composition, and if you check the supply tab, actually army tab, Pitrof does have a little bit larger army and a little bit more worker, but not a lot at this point. I think they're both pretty even. But we'll have to see how the battle goes, and Pitrof is getting on an observer. He does see Thanatos' army. His reaction here will be very important. Once he sees this army, what is he going to do? He does have a lot of stalkers out, but stalkers aren't that great versus zealots if the zealots can surround them. What's he going to do? And notice that his nexus is now up, so he is going to have a little bit of a macro boost at this point in the game. And what's Thanatos doing? Thanatos is chronoing out an immortal. If he can get that immortal out before Pitrof attacks, it'll really help him out versus Pitrof's stalker-based army, really. A lot of stalkers. How many stalkers does he have? He has 7 stalkers, 3 immortals. Thanatos has 12 zealots, though. That's a lot of zealots. I think that many zealots may be able to... I don't think it'll really negate the immortals, but it'll do some damage to them. And now Thanatos getting his natural up. If you notice, though, he is 10 under in terms of worker supply, so he really needs to get that worker gap closed if he wants to stay in the game at this point. And he is chronoing out probes from his secondary nexus at his natural expansion. Still under supply, though, versus Pitrof in workers. If we check the army supply tab, he's a little bit under an army supply tab too. Not terribly, though. And let's see what Pitrof's doing. Pitrof actually getting out a Colossus and a Robotics Bay with extended thermal lance. So Pitrof is now transitioning into Colossi, which is pretty good versus a Zealot army. I think a Colossus will be able to do a lot of damage versus Zealots. But I wouldn't really give the unit composition to either of these two armies at this point. Well, he does have a Colossus out. I don't know. Maybe that will do it, but I think it'll be a close and interesting battle nevertheless. And Thanatos not seeing that observer. He doesn't realize his army is being scouted out. The income tab, wow, Thanatos is just not... Is there... Oh, okay, so there was an attack by Thanatos from the proxy pylon. Interesting. I think he took out a few workers there, not a lot. But we'll see how this goes. Thanatos is Pitrof being able to micro away from the Zealots pretty well. Zealots, they need to keep attacking the probes. 1 probe down, 2 probe down. Come on, keep attacking the probes. No. Not getting that many probe kills at this point. But I think that was pretty good harass on Thanatos' part. He made good use of this proxy pylon, which is now unfortunately going to go down. But I do think that was good harass from Thanatos. Don't know how much it'll do in the long run, though. And Thanatos still going for immortals, lots of zealots. Has he gotten anything out recently? I didn't check, but if we check the income tab, 49 to 40. Army supply tab, now Pitrof, his army is getting a little bit bigger than Thanatos, and I think that really is a result of his income difference between these two players. What's Thanatos doing here? Oh, okay, he's trying to get a natural, but at the same time, Pitrof is moving out, or maybe he's moving out. I don't think he knows quite what he's doing at this point. And interesting to note, Thanatos doesn't really have a hard counter to these immortals, or these colossi, at this point. I think the immortals are probably a pretty good counter versus them, but the immortals are just going to get chopped away by the zealots. And here we are, the immortals did get chopped away by the zealots. Thanatos doesn't have anything to counter these colossus, and without a hard counter to the colossus are just doing tons of damage. The supply tab is really falling for Thanatos. I don't think Thanatos is going to win this battle at all. And Pitrof's entire army's left. Thanatos GG's out of the match. So I think what we saw there really was Pitrof, he applied early pressure. Well, he applied good pressure at least. And he got the best counter to Thanatos' army because Pitrof got early immortals out. Thanatos had to counter with zealots. And then to deal with the zealots that Thanatos got out, Pitrof got out colossi, and I think he really determined the unit composition of both armies at pretty much every step of the way, and he did that by getting out the really early Robo Bay. So that's the end of Game 2, and I will see you guys at Game 3 of this best of 3 semifinal gold third week tournament. See you guys there.